Hello everybody, welcome back. And last week's video we looked about Hebrew 9 chapter 22nd verse, where it says without shedding blood there is no forgiveness in the last week's video. So blood is taking vital part in human life. So therefore it is recorded in Genesis book that Abel's blood speaks to God, but not literally the blood speaking to God, but it indicates the blood has life. So that's why in Genesis chapter God says that we should not drink or eat the animal's blood. So God says this here. But during the sin, there was a big change because the people were getting more cursed. And this caused the blood to be cursed due to consequence of sin. So when the blood was cursed, this would cause diseases and aging for the blood and eventually leading to death. So the blood must be purified. And to do this, they have to shed a blood. And without shedding the blood, there is no purification. So that's what Jesus Christ did for us. He shed his blood and gave his life for us, and he was a man without sin. And he purified our blood by giving his life. We know this. But we understood this. Now we've understood what the blood is. Now we've understood the blood is a vital part. But what we need to understand about is, now we can go back to Cain's sacrifice first. Then we'll find about why he wasn't personally favored. So the plan and purpose was simple and straightforward. About the blood and the sacrifice of innocent animals are the symbol of Jesus Christ. So the blood, the sacrifice, and the innocent animals are the symbol of Jesus Christ. So this symbolizes God's plan for human salvation. It is very clear to the humankind to save them and help them understand his plans and to help them follow it and come out of or overcome the consequence of sin. Since we already know what the fallen mind can do, since we see what Adam and Eve's behavior was, they already, as the fallen mind, that they started to feel hide from God, guilty, fear, alternative situations, blaming, justification, and all they expressed in the Eden garden after they did sin was disobedience. But the Creator knows the best solution to save his creation, and he's indicating them in his ways as well, of course. But let's now go into a point we need to understand. Why was Abel's sacrifice chosen? Well, there's actually one-line answer for this, for once, actually, in the Bible, since it's very clear. Because according to his plan, Abel's sacrifice was doing according to his plan and purpose. So God accepted it, since it was exactly to his plan and purpose. Since his plan and purpose was the blood, sacrifice, an innocent animal. And then we need to understand is the part B question. Why he didn't favor Cain personally. Because as we saw in the previous weeks, they learned both from the same parenting. Adam and Eve had both experienced the perfect human being as a fallen mind. And God is very clear to them and after the disobedience, after the inquiry, he clearly explains to Adam and Eve and Satan the consequence about his plan and humankind in Genesis 3rd chapter. So we understood that Adam and Eve had both experienced the perfect human and as a fallen mind. And God is very clear to them before and after disobedience about everything. After the investigation or inquiry, we could say, he clearly explains to them, Adam and Eve and Satan especially, about the consequence and his plan to the humankind, Genesis 3rd chapter, which we will look about next week. We'll understand about. So that's all for today, though. But let's go through what we looked about. So first we understood about what blood was. We understood that blood is a living thing. And we cannot, that's why God said, since we see that God says that Abel's blood spoke to him. So that's why God says we cannot kill blood or drink blood since it is a living thing. But due to the consequence of sin, the blood was cursed and many diseases started to come into the blood. And this meant diseases were coming to the blood, causing aging and death. But then what Jesus Christ did, he gave his life for us as a perfect man without sin and purifying our blood. Since without purifying the blood, there is no purification. So they have to shed the blood. Then we understood the straightforward point. First of all, that we were going to look about why Cain's sacrifice was not accepted. And first we're going to look about why he was not personally favored. So the plan of God and purpose was about the blood, the sacrifice, and the innocent animal are the symbol of Jesus Christ. So this symbolizes God's plan for the human salvation. We know, well, God, basically, I'm recapping what we just did. So what God did, he is saying he was going to help us overcome this. He's going to help us overcome this using his plan of the symbolizing of the blood sacrifice and the innocent animal. So he's going to use to overcome us from the consequence of sin. Since we know that what the fallen mind can do, there's so many different emotions in the human mindset. And then we know that God knows best for us. And then we finally looked above what we just saw now is that Abel's sacrifice was chosen because his sacrifice was the plan and purpose of God. Since it was a blood sacrifice, the blood's sacrifice an innocent animal. So we need to understand that that he had a sacrifice according to his plan and purpose, so God accepted it. But then the part B, we looked about why Cain was not accepted personally, because they both had the same parenting. They both were parented correctly, since both of their parents were parents who experienced the perfect human being and the fallen mind. And God is very clear to them before and after the disobedience. And then we know that Satan is basically saying to them, it clearly explains to them in the end, in Genesis 3rd chapter, the three people, Adam and Eve and Satan, which we're going to look about next week. So see you then. Bye.